Ever go to book a flight and it tells you it's $99 one way, only to get to checkout and it's like 230 bucks? Sometimes buying a house can be like that. There are additional costs that not everybody talks about. My name is Jeff Magdalene. I'm a realtor here in Windsor and Essex County. And if you're looking to buy a house, there are some costs that often get overlooked. So you're going to want to save this video so that you can be prepared for when that time comes for you to buy a house, that you didn't miss out on anything. I share tons of information on this channel about real estate related news and information, so you're going to want to subscribe so you can stay up to date. But in this video, we're going to talk about 8 different costs that come with buying a house that often get overlooked, and what can happen if you don't have every one of them lined up. In this video, I'm going to stick with a house that is the average house in our area, which is around $575 at the time of making this video, because certain costs are associated with how much the house actually costs. So we're going to stick with that $575 priced home. Okay, the first thing you're going to need, I've already mentioned it, it is your down payment. Now, how does a down payment work? In Ontario, the way it works is the first $500,000 of the house is going to be, you're going to need 5% down. $500,000 and above, up to 1.5 million, you're going to need 10% of the amount that's over 500,000. So if you buy a $600,000 house, the first 500,000 is 5%, the next 100,000 is 10%. It's not 10% all the way up to 600,000, it's just that extra 100 over the 500,000. Over 1.5 million, you're going to need 20%. So with a house that is listed at 575, the first 500,000, 5% is going to be $25,000. Now there's another $75,000 over top of that, so 10% of that is going to be $7,500. You add that together, you get $32,500. That is the down payment you would need on a $575,000 house. Second thing you're going to need, this is the land transfer tax. Now this is true for all of Ontario, but if you live in the GTA, there's also the municipal transfer tax, and you're going to double this number because it's the same percentages. It's just there's 2 of them in the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, but outside of that area in Ontario, you just pay the land transfer tax. It is a little bit complicated to explain, and the math doesn't really matter. I will put a link for a land transfer tax calculator in the comments or in the caption. So if you want to link to that and figure it out for the house that you're buying, you can link to that and get the real number for the price point that you're looking at. But on a house that's $575,000, the land transfer tax is going to come to $7,975. So just under $8,000. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably haven't bought a house before, then that means you're a first-time home buyer. There is a first-time home buyer rebate of $4,000. And so that will come back to you in the, well, it won't come back to you, you just won't have to pay the first $4,000 of that. So if it's your first home, $575, the land transfer tax is $79.75, it's going to come down to $39.75 for a first-time home buyer. That's the land transfer tax. Third thing you're going to need, okay, so you've got your down payment, you're paying the tax to transfer the house to your name. Third thing you're going to need is a lawyer. Now, lawyers in our area, they range. I've seen anything from $9.99. I've had one client that I think paid up around $2,300, $2,400. Now, that client, I think, used a lawyer that wasn't local. Locally, I've never really seen anybody get too much above $2,000. So I would say budget for $2,000. Chances are it's not going to cost that much. Typically, I see somewhere between $1,700 and $1,800, but I'd rather you go a little bit higher and have money left in your pocket as opposed to telling you it's going to be $1,000 and then it turns out to be $1,700. So I would budget probably about $2,000 for a lawyer to close the property and transfer it into your name. So that is the third cost that you have to keep in mind. So we have $32,500 for the down payment. We've got another, if you're a first-time home buyer, about $4,000 for the land transfer tax, and now we've got another $2,000. So already we're up about $6,000 on top of your down payment. So these are things you don't want to miss, because if you get to that final meeting with your lawyer and you don't have this money, it's going to be hard to close on that house. All right, the fourth thing I want you to keep in mind, when you write an offer on a house, likely you're going to, or I always encourage my clients to get a home inspection. Now, it may be pre-inspected. You may still want to get your own inspection, but those can range anywhere from about $350 to $550. I would say probably budget around $500 for that. But that way you know that you have that money set aside to do a home inspection. Hopefully you only have to do one and you don't find anything major that's wrong with the house, but that's going to be a cost that's part of the whole transaction that you need to have ready in order to close on the house, in order to make sure you're buying something that is going to be sound for you and that there's no glaring problems with it that maybe your realtor didn't see or you didn't see or people were unaware of. So a home inspection is always a good idea. I would budget around $500 in our area for that cost. Fifth thing that we're going to look at is movers. Now, you may be young enough that you're strong enough to move stuff, or you can get all your friends together and they can help move you. Maybe you have to rent a U-Haul and do it that way. You can budget that out however much you want. Maybe you got a bunch of friends with trucks and you don't have to, all you're paying for is beer and pizza, whatever it is. But if you're going to hire movers, this is where it can really range. It, again, depends on how big of a house you bought, how much stuff you have, and how many people you actually have to hire. Typically with about 2 people, you're probably looking anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. You do a little bit less than $1,000 sometimes, depending on if you're going to pack up your stuff yourself or if they're going to come in and pack it all for you. But again, this ranges, I've seen from down to $1,000 all the way up to $4,000. So it really depends on how much you have. If it was me as a first-time home buyer, I'd budget for about $1,500. And then if you don't spend it, great. It's like finding free money. I know that might be girl math, but if you didn't spend it, that's extra money that you can go spend on something else or find something nice for the place. So $1,500 is about what I would budget. So again, land transfer tax, an extra $4,000, lawyer $2,000. Here we added another $500 for our home inspection and $1,500 more here. Now, once you've bought the house, in addition to paying your mortgage, you're going to have to pay property taxes. Now, how much are property taxes? Again, this is based on the assessed value of your home, and every municipality has their different tax rates. So you can look this up on their website, and then, to find the assessed value, it's not going to be the price you paid. We are still going based off values from 2016 at the time of recording this video. And so you would have to ask your realtor, what is the assessed value of the house? And then you could figure it out. But most times it's on the listing as it is. For a house that's about $575 in Windsor in Essex County, well, in the city of Windsor, because again, Essex County, every municipality is going to have a different tax rate. So in the city of Windsor, on average, what I found is I would budget around $4,500 a year. So that's going to come out to about $375 a month, but that's going to be the cost in and around that. Now, again, that can vary a bit based on, again, what you paid for the house isn't necessarily what it's assessed at, and some have been improved significantly. So if somebody, if it wasn't a great house and somebody renovated it to make it gorgeous inside, then you're paying higher for it, but assessed wise, it's still really low, then your taxes might be lower. So I would budget about $4,500 a year, which is about $375 a month. That brings me to the next one, which is the adjustments. Now, this is one that usually catches people off guard the most because yes, we've heard of taxes. Yes, we've heard of land transfer taxes, all these things. Maybe those are ones you've heard about, but an adjustment is when you come to closing, if the seller has paid for something that is specific to the property and they've paid, so a prime example of this would be taxes. Let's say you buy a house and you're closing on it on June the 1st, and they've paid taxes for the first half of the year already. Well, the first half of the year doesn't end till the end of June. And so there's a whole month there that they've paid taxes for that they're not living there. You are going to back pay them. And this is all going to happen at the lawyers at closing. There's going to be an adjustment in the price. So that $375 per month that you're paying in taxes, you're going to have to pay $375 at closing back to the seller because they've already prepaid that. Taxes are the big one. If there's condo fees that have been paid in advance, which I don't usually see too often, but condo fees can be another adjustment. If there's like a equipment rental, like a hot water tank or your HVAC system that's been paid, again, a couple months in advance, maybe they pay every quarter instead of every month, something like that, that could be back paid. But usually I would say on average, you're looking at most around 500 bucks because it's typically just comes down to the taxes. And so that would budget about $500 for the adjustments at closing on that. The last one that I have here is just miscellaneous, right? There's going to be stuff that comes up in the house. Maybe you need to get some landscaping done. Maybe there's some little fixes that you need to do in the house. I would budget, again, maybe you want to get the place cleaned. I would budget just $1,000 just in case. Just so that when you're getting ready to move in, if there's something that needs to be fixed, if there's something that needs to get cleaned, if you want to get something done, you have it there for you. If we add this all up, again, we started at $32,500 for your down payment. You need another $4,000 for your land transfer tax, $2,000 for the lawyer. You're going to need about $500 for your home inspection. Let's say $1,500 for the movers. And then you've got your property taxes, which is going to be another $4,500, or let's say $375 for the per month. But that's something that, again, that's going to be an extra payment. And then $1,000 of just miscellaneous. When you add it all up at closing, you're going to need about $46,000 when your down payment was only $32,500. So if you don't have that extra $13,500, it could be very difficult to close. Those are all the costs that you need to close on a house. And if you want to know more about the whole buying process, I do have a video here that talks about buying a house from start to finish, and all this is covered in there and so much more as well. Go watch that video now and it'll help you on your home buying journey.